Welcome back to the Ego Actus reading series. Today we're focusing on our newest reading series, Women's Drama. And tonight I have the pleasure of having playwright and director for this new wonderful play called The New Me, about finding the real person behind the socially acceptable mask. The New Me is written by Margo Hammond and directed by Kat Parker. If both of you want to say a quick hello to the audience.
Hello.
Hello.
Alrighty, let's get started, shall we? So, I've sent the questions ahead of time, but if inspiration hits you and you want to add on as much or as little, please go for it. So let's begin. Margo, The New Me is set entirely in a living room. So why did you choose to contain the story in one space? It feels like such a big story, but you're setting it in a space that's so intimate and it doesn't really change that much. What was the decision behind it?
Well, mostly practical. It's easier to produce, and a lot of theaters they actually ask for it. They don't want to pay for all the different kind of sets. So, you get a little extra credit for getting it within 24 hours. The action happens succinctly in 24 hours in the same place. So, I think that's what I was going for. I wrote it a while back, but I think that's pretty much what I was going for.
Hey, you can't go wrong with practicality. I know that if we go big and bold, we end up on a Broadway stage, and I feel like that's a little out of budget. Besides, I feel like you have a lot of good plays that take place in maybe one location. So I think it makes it rather exciting. But as I was reading the play, I kept thinking to myself, wow, what a story. And all in one space. So I was really curious if there was this kind of mixture of maybe symbolism, but the fact that you're focused on practicality is honestly really interesting. And Kat, for you, I'm sure being the director, once you're working with one space, I'm curious if that makes your job feel even easier, or if suddenly you're feeling, ooh, I've got a fun challenge of working with just the one space of a living room.
So practically, obviously, one single space is a lot easier to work with. My husband's a set designer, so he certainly loves them. But dramatically, I feel like a single space creates more tension. Um, when you contain a story and contain people within one thing, within one unit, in this case, a room, especially a room that we're all so familiar with, a living room, that just kind of helps ratchet up the tension level of what is going to be a very tense interaction between these people.
And what a good answer, right? We talk about tension, and this play has a lot of that to the extent. And I don't want to say spoilers, right? But Margo, both of your characters, Danielle and Madeline, they are women that we would call on the edge of transformation. And that kind of feels exciting and also rather tense. So I'm curious how you crafted their journeys, and how did you make sure that even though they were both going through this kind of transformation, that they could be different from each other so that they didn't feel too much the same? What was it like creating them?
Well, I wrote this a while back, but I think it's interesting that you use the word craft because I didn't feel like I was doing that. I set up a situation and then I did. First of all, that the two journeys, there's two generations. So there's a old, the mother and the daughter. So they grew up in a different time
Mm.
to become adults. And the mother is more, she's got a facade that's physical. She dresses really nicely, socially acceptable facade. The daughter is more disheveled and sort of let herself go physically.
Mm.
And I, I think I sort of let it take me rather. I didn't, as I recall, I didn't feel like I crafted it. I felt like I set the situation up and then let that happen with the obstacles that each character had. One, she just discovered something about her husband. The other, she's been hiding a whole bunch of secrets and she just sort of breaks out all over. She's got an explosion, the mother. has an explosion. So I don't know if I answered that real well, but that's that's my answer. I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, stick with it. I love that answer. I think it's also
If I
interesting.
may,
No, please add on.
I think these women feed each other, and they would neither of these transformations would have happened without the other one um, instigating. Danielle may have thought at the beginning that she wanted to do something, but I don't think she would have ever chosen to do something without her mom's revelations, and I don't think her mom's revelations would have ever been revealed without Danielle coming out and showing, again, no spoilers, but it's kind of showing her mom's face to her face, to show him. I heard a phrase once that a lot of plays like this are about what we give up to grow up. And both of these women have had to give up different things, but they both understand the feeling of giving something up in order to grow up. Just as, however, our society, their particular society for their generation, has designated what growing up means.
Yes.
Wow, what an answer. And I
Yeah.
find that, like, as I read through the play, I could kind of feel it, right? The way that both of their stories, similar to what you were saying. It feels like one's story couldn't have happened really without the other. They both kind of live together, which is really exciting. And when I was reading the description of the play, the one that Joan and Bruce have on their website, there's a sentence that says, the two women finally experience their true warrior selves and discover the ability to get what they truly want out of life. And as I was reading the play, I could sense a lot of this anger, right? And a lot of repressing that anger and finally letting it loose and letting it free. So I'm really curious, and it might be similar to what you've answered, Margot, last time regarding the characters, but what drew you to a story like this that talked about these women coming into their transformation? It's chaotic, it's somewhat nuts, but it's also exciting and it feels rather powerful. What drew you in? Or is it that you started writing and the story just took you with it?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't feel like I wish I did, but I don't plan how it's going to go. I set myself up and allow it to happen. However, I think your question's fascinating because I think that many women historically, and we're getting better at it, but a lot of us feel like anger, public anger, social anger, it's not socially acceptable. We're
Mhm.
considered a bitch if we are angry about something, or it's derogatory. Whereas a man, he's angry, it sort of seems strong. So I think we're coming to terms with it because women are fighting for their anger, but and also we're finding ways to diffuse it. In this play, the mother, she hasn't found it until now, and well, she expressed her anger, but she suppresses so much that it explodes. And I think we all try to find a way to express ourselves without exploding. You know.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm not sure that I think people are hiding anger. Anger is the byproduct. What we've been taught to suppress is hope and
Hmm.
ambition. And,
Mhm.
and the suppressing of that is what causes the anger, causes the explosion. We're not women aren't, although we've been told this, we're not walking around seething cauldrons of anger all the time. We just have things that we want to do. And often we're told we can't or we shouldn't or it's not the nice thing to do, and all that causes the frustration and thus the anger at the explosion.
Yeah,
Hmm.
we get subjugated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, subjugated. That is a good word. And you know what? Let's take a step back from the play itself. Let's look at the reason why Joan and Bruce started this series, right? Joan reached out to me, and I'm sure she reached out to everyone involved in this project, essentially saying, you look at the theater world, you look at what's going on in the season, and it's dominated by a lot of male playwrights. Wouldn't you believe it? And we're also at a time right now, socially, politically, where women are fighting tooth and nail. And that frustration is coming up really fast. And I find that there are other people, perhaps, that are trying to push the women back down. So while I was reading The New Me, I kept thinking to myself, oh, well, that's rather topical. So I'm curious, and this is for both of you, right? As theater creators, right? As a playwright, as a director, as theater makers, when you think of The New Me and you hope that folks who see it get some sort of a connection to it or have a response to it, what do you hope that response would be?
Well, I think that women today probably have more significant problems than the women in this play. But
Mhm.
I, because this is a comedy, but I think we all have masks. And I think daring to show yourself and fight for yourself and try to get what you want in life is noble. There's nothing wrong with that.
As a female in this business, I think kind of going back to what I was saying earlier is that the anger comes from a frustration, and the subject of women's visibility in theater on all kinds of levels has been an ongoing topic for a while. And we made a great deal of progress. And I think that that's why the announcement of several of theaters this last season seems to be a big step backward.
Mm.
And if you think about feminism and Roe v. Wade and all the things that we're fighting now, I feel like there were generations of women before us who fought the good fight, and we thought we got somewhere. And now it's just being whipped out from under us again because you take your eye off the ball for 1 second and try to relax and enjoy the fruits of your labors, and somebody comes around behind you and kicks your knees out from under you. And I think especially with Madeline in this, I think that's part of what's happened. She's tried to play by the rules and be the nice person, and then somebody comes along and just, snaps her knees out from under her, and now she's not going to take it anymore.
Yeah. And it's so funny that there is also that reminder that the play is a comedy, despite the topics, right? There is that frustration. And to be honest, the way that you're describing it, Kat, it would be hilarious in that kind of situation if it weren't so real. The idea of so much progress and then suddenly, and we're moving 2 steps back. It would almost be hilarious. And unfortunately, that's the reality. But that's why we have these storytellers, right? Our actors, our actresses, and especially now with this series, our playwrights, our directors. But I am curious, and right, feel free for both of you. You don't have to give any spoilers. I always like giving that so the audience goes in with a surprise. But let's talk about perhaps what you would consider the funniest part of the play. If you want to give a preview.
Kat, do you have any? Hang on.
Beef stew.
What's that?
Beef stew.
Oh, yeah.
That's not a spoiler, but that's a little carrot to hang out there. Yeah.
No, I like it. It's a good dangling carrot.
Absolutely. A lot of the comedy comes from relationships. There are people who have really down and dirty, tragic relationships with their parents, but a great deal of us just have frustrating relationships. And I think that that's part of what is happening with Danielle. She loves her mother. Her mother loves her. They know that. And yet they just drive each other a little too crazy sometimes. And every once in a while, when it takes maybe a step too far, there's a little bit of a quip. There's just, and that's life, Preachers talk about how at funerals can be some of the funniest things that happen because people are so loaded with negative emotions that you need to have that comedy to survive, to move ahead, to do the positive.
Well said. You need that comedy sometimes. And The New Me is a whole lot of things. So I encourage folks to absolutely come and watch The New Me on Monday, November 3rd, 2025. It is part of the women's drama series at Ego Actus, and all of the readings will be presented for free at the Episcopal Actors Guild in New York City. That's going to be Mondays in October and November. And this series was created entirely out of pocket, so we're grateful for any support, and donations can be made in cash or checks at the readings or on the Give Butter campaign that you can find on egoactus.com. Ladies, thank you so much. I had such a thrill reading The New Me. I think we dangled a very good, decently sized carrot for our audience. I wish you luck on the opening, and thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks for having